So today I wanted to take a quick look at the 1995 sci-fi action comedy film Tank Girl. I've honestly never watched this film, and I'm honestly really sad that I haven't watched it sooner. It's just, for some reason growing up I had always seen the imagery around, and the poster just never caught my interest. It's usually the main thing that draws me in is I'll usually watch something based off of the poster or the title. Neither just caught my interest, and I had no idea what the film was about. I'd never bothered to look into it, but I'm honestly glad I finally watched it. It's such a great movie and it's just hilarious. So the film does take place in 2022, drought-ridden Australia. I believe there was just a comet that hit the earth and caused this really crazy long drought. And we also have a monopoly, which is now controlling I guess you could say the country or the earth's water supply. So it's just kind of insane just the way that that this whole thing was set up, but why not? I mean, as far as, post-apocalyptic, water is obviously an essential, and it makes sense that it would become a form of power, but I don't know if it's just the fact that it's understood that the film is set in Australia, even though it was actually filmed, even though it was primarily filmed, I believe, in Arizona, but it seems to have somewhat of that Road Warrior feel, and I don't know if it's just the whole post-apocalyptic or it's just the desert scenes that does that, but it's definitely a very fun flick. So it is based off of a comic also by the same title, Tank Girl, and interestingly enough, because I thought that the panel sequences at the intro of the film, as well as the animated sequences, I thought that was just, something that was added in order to reference the comic bookness of the film. And apparently there were several scenes that were not filmed for the movie, I guess just things that the director forgot to do. And I know there was a lot of studio involvement where they just wouldn't mind their own business and let them take care of their own business and film the movie. So there were several rewrites as well as numerous scenes which were cut from the film, unfortunately. So according to the director, there were roughly about an hour's worth of scenes which were cut. To my knowledge, there still is not an actual complete version of the film, but if it did exist, I would totally love to see it, just because reading about some of the scenes that were cut, it definitely seems to have a lot more crude humor. It also seems to have a lot more violence and gore, and I don't know if the studio executives at the time were just total prudes and just kind of had a whole issue with the whole sex and violence thing, but I honestly think it would have held a lot more true to the spirit of the film, even though the film that we did get is obviously a cult classic in its own right, and it's just fantastic in, the way it is, in my opinion. But, adding to the crazy, for those of you who may or may not know, there was a sex scene between Tank Girl Rebecca and I guess you could say a mutant or humanoid kangaroo, which involved a 10-inch phallus prosthetic. So apparently that was why that scene was cut. But, it's kind of, it is what it is. And, even if it wasn't intended for shock value, even to some degree, it would have, upped the goofiness of the film. It's definitely a movie that doesn't take itself serious. I love the character writing as well as the dialogue, and I've run across the comparison, and I can definitely agree. She's somewhat of a female Deadpool, attitude-wise and things that she says and does. But I really love the character. She's very spunky. She's full of personality. She has tons of crazy hairdos throughout the film, even though she is primarily a buzz cut. She does have some longer strands. She does go, I believe, through a total of 18 wardrobe and hairstyle changes, a combination of the two throughout the course of the film. So, the character herself is definitely very versatile and dressed up, but we basically have her living on a tank girl. She's basically living on a commune or a camp. They're siphoning water from one of the last remaining free wells, and they wind up getting raided. Numerous people from the community are killed, and a little girl, which Rebecca, I guess, adopted or took, and wound up being kidnapped. So that's pretty much where our journey starts. And that also just, in its sense, has the whole anti-hero set up already. But she takes it upon herself to go and rescue this little girl. And I believe she was taken to a club called Liquid Silver, which is pretty much a brothel. So you could say, yeah, they totally could have scuzzied up the film right then and there, but ironically, they throw in this whole crazy song and dance number in the middle of the rescue, which, you know, seems to go on for at least maybe 2 to 3 minutes, which is just, you know, completely random and hilarious in itself. But I love that about the film, is that it keeps throwing curves at you, and it's not really a film that set out to make sense. You get the story, and you just follow along for the ride, and, you know, don't question it. Just enjoy the film for what it is. It's definitely a very fun film. And of course, we do have Lori Petty playing Rebecca, or Tank Girl, and it's just very weird for me to see her in these types of roles. Obviously, if you've seen Orange is the New Black, she also played Lolly. It's just, you know, being a 90s kid myself, I grew up on Free Willy. I freely admit that, and I'm used to seeing her as the whale or the orca trainer, and then from her to go from that to this. But it's to her credit. She's definitely a very talented woman, and she's a very versatile actress, and she's not afraid to take risks, and I love and appreciate that about her. So the film primarily was filmed in Tucson, Arizona, as well as White Sands, New Mexico. So that's pretty much where everything was filmed. Anything that didn't take place, of course, the Liquid Silver set was in Arizona, but basically anything that didn't take place in either location was filmed roughly within 20 miles of the Tucson, Arizona area. And what I thought interesting, even though I hadn't noticed, was that Courtney Love had overseen the compilation of the music used in the film. She composed the soundtrack, I guess you could say, and for the most part, I'd say, yeah, it really doesn't seem to be too dated as far as the 90s era. They've tweaked the music a bit, and the film, as well as the music, definitely does carry a lot of grunge elements, but I really don't think it hurts the film. I mean, we've got this whole, you know, gritty post-apocalyptic thing going on, so I really don't think it hurts the movie at all. But definitely Rebecca's character, or Tank Girl, she's definitely, like I said, definitely very spunky and crass, and she's not afraid to be herself. And I really love and appreciate that about the character, especially because in film, I really don't run across too many goofball characters that also manage to be a badass at the same time, and she totally pulls it off, and I'm absolutely glad I saw this film. I really don't have an overall favorite scene or anything that sticks in mind. I just really enjoy the film as a whole. So that was, you know, that's pretty much it. There's not really anything in particular that stands out, maybe other than the song and dance routine in the middle of the film, but I think just about anybody would agree on that one. It really sticks out, and, you know, in my opinion, it doesn't hurt the film. You know, it adds to the kookiness. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have on Tank Girl for you guys for today, and I will talk to you later.